Thrones history and lore. I'm honestly kind of excited about this. I'm not huge on fantasy, though I've been liking Game of Thrones. I haven't really checked out Lord of the Rings or any of the. I'm not like big on that fantasy genre, though. Game of Thrones is kind of turning me around. With that said, though, I am a bit of a history nut or history nerd. I'm no expert by any means, but the reason I started Game of Thrones, or this reaction channel as a whole, actually, was because about a month and a half ago, I watched a documentary on the War of the Roses. And in the documentary, they had mentioned that that was a major story influence for the author to write Game of Thrones. It didn't give a direct correlation. It said that the Lancasters was a direct connection to the Lannisters and the Yorks to the Starks, and how honor essentially became the downfall of the Starks. I don't really see how the correlation is going to be because, like, spoilers on real history, the guy who ended up becoming king was a descendant of both the Lancasters and the Yorks. So I don't know. I don't think there is a direct correlation to that in this show. There might be later on in the show. I have no idea. A couple other. I took a few notes here just for this. I do want to end up doing a tier list system, but I don't think I'm gonna end up doing it every episode. I'll probably do it every lore episode at the end of each season, just to let you know where I am with it. I was gonna do like a top 10, bottom 10 situation, but there's only like 20 characters in the show, and probably less than that when you like include who I know and who's already been killed off. We'll get into that in a second. So what I was saying is I've only done 5 for each. But yeah, I got a couple things that I didn't notice here. The only one that I know for sure is a direct historical correlation is the War of the Roses. But there's a few other things that I noticed that I wrote down here that I thought might or may not be true. You guys can let me know in the comments below. I don't want to do too much research and spoil anything for myself. But the Maesters, they remind me of like friar monks. You know, the guys who have like the bald head and then the hair on the sides. They typically were like historians and delved in the mystical end of things when it came to how the kingdom directly correlated with the church, or associated with the church, I should say. The Dothraki have to be like straight up Mongols / Vikings, though I'm leaning more Mongols. And the last one was the actual Robert's Rebellion, where Robert and Ned overthrew the Targaryen king. I think, and there's plenty of instances of rebellion and a new monarch taking over, but I'm pretty sure it's inspired by William the Conqueror. If you don't know who that is, he is a Frenchman who claimed to be the heir of the king. He came over from France to England, essentially went super hard with all of his little thugged out friends and killed all of the monarchs and overthrew the entire country. Essentially, the friends who came with him to overthrow the country ended up being put into positions of power and acquiring land all over the country. Not to get too deep into it, but how I know about that story is I did a family lineage thing, and I traced my family all the way back to William the Conqueror. My eldest forefather, like the person who gave us our last name, was one of William the Conqueror's goons. So uh, I did a bunch of history on that. So when watching this show, that was like the first thing that came to mind. I very well could be wrong. There could be a bunch of other influences that these things are based on. If you know the correct answers, please leave them in the comments below. I'm not going to hold you too much longer. Yeah, let's get into this.
In the dawn age of Westeros, before the coming of man and the raising of castles and cities, there were only the children of the forest. Little is known of them now, but it is said they were small in stature, dark and beautiful, and no taller than children when grown to manhood. They lived in the depths of the forests and hidden villages, crannogs and caves. They hunted with weirwood bows and armed themselves with blades of obsidian. Their wise men were called green seers and were possessed of a powerful magic. They worshipped nameless, faceless gods of the forest, stream and stone. According to legend, it was they who carved faces in the great white trunks of the majestic weirwoods.
Oh, okay.
Their deep-cut eyes were red with
so these are like pagans,
watchful.
Like Celts.
12,000 years ago, the first men came from the eastern continent, crossing a land bridge called the Arm of Dawn. Riding their great horses and wielding weapons of bronze, they cut down the children's forests and weirwoods.
Okay, yeah, so I think this is like a direct representation of the Celts in England, Scotland, and Ireland, and the Romans coming in and ending paganism.
A terrible war raged between the children and the first men that lasted for centuries. At long last, the two races sought an end to the years of horror and bloodshed. They met on a small isle in the centre of a great lake called the God's Eye.
Okay, yeah, this is definitely that. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Isle of Man, but it's a small island right in between Ireland and England.
It was there they forged the pact. The first men would be granted dominion over the coastlands, the mountains, the high plains and the bogs, but the deep forest would forever belong to the children, and no weirwood tree would ever again fall to man's axe. To seal the pact before the gods, the children carved a face in every weirwood tree on the island, which came to be known as the Isle of Faces. But the pact could not withstand the coming of the Andals, a race of tall, fair-haired warriors. They attacked with fire and weapons of steel, slaughtering the children of the forest wherever they could find them, burning out their weirwood groves, hacking away at the faces of the old gods, and spreading their own religion through the land.
Yeah.
Centuries of war followed, and the Andals conquered every kingdom in Westeros, save one, the North. The kings of winter were able to withstand the Andal invasion, and descendants of the first men dwell there to this day, and continue to worship the old gods. As for the children of the forest, those who survived the slaughter were said to have fled far north and have not been seen again.
Oh, so this is why the Starks still worship the old gods.
Some don't believe they ever existed. They live on only through song and legend, and in the faces of the weirwood trees.
Age of Hero Brain Start.
When Aegon the Conqueror invaded Westeros, he had 7 kingdoms to contend with. The Kingdom of the North, the Kingdom of the Mountain and the Vale, the Iron Islands, the Kingdom of the Rock, the Kingdom of the Reach, the Stormlands, and Dawn. These regions...
Okay, so again, I'm not positive about the William the Conqueror correlation, but this actually does directly relate to that story, because at the time there wasn't no directly unified England or UK. Well, eventually would be the UK. You had Scotland, which was the wild Northmen. Honestly, the Romans didn't fuck with them at all. Eventually, all of this became unified under what is now the UK. but we have you have um, Wessex, Suffolk, or Sussex, Essex. There's a bunch of these. Um, the most southern, which was Wessex, eventually became what we now call London.
Legends had been established by the first men thousands of years before, in the Age of Heroes. One hero of this fabled age was Bran the Builder. Bran raised the wall and built the stronghold of Winterfell, establishing House Stark and reigning as the first king in the north.
Oh, okay.
Other legends tell of the Grey King in the Iron Islands. The Grey King took a mermaid to wife and defeated Naga, the first sea dragon.
Oh,
House
shit.
Greyjoy of Pike, the current rulers of the region, claimed to descend from him. House Casterly ruled the gold-rich Westerlands from their mighty seat of Casterly Rock. But their lands and power were swindled from them by the legendary trickster, Lan the Clever. The noble house of Lannister is said to have descended from him.
Okay,
The verdant
that
and
makes sense.
fertile lands of the Reach were first ruled by House Gardener, whose founder, known as Garth Greenhand, wore a crown of flowers and vines. He ruled from Highgarden as the first king of the Reach and was said to have made the land bloom. Many noble houses trace their bloodlines back to him, including the current lords of Highgarden, House Tyrrell. In the Stormlands, according to ballads of the age, a warrior named Durin fell in love with Elenai, whose father was god of the sea and mother was goddess of the wind. She gave her maidenhead to him.
I like this.
committing
So
herself
this is
to
like the
mortal
origin
life.
story. This is like the origin story to all
Her
major
parents
houses.
called upon the winds
I like
and
this.
waters, destroying Darren's Bayside keep and wiping out his wedding guests. Darren declared war on the gods and rebuilt his keep, which was also destroyed. 4 more castles
This is how you
were
gonna-
razed, each
how
stronger
you
than
gonna
the last.
Claim war on
All
the
fell to the
on the
power of the
gods.
gods. But Darren's 7th castle, Storm's End, withstood the gods' rage.
Oh,
Darren became known
okay.
as Darren Godsgrief and reigned as the first Storm King.
Darren's
There are
God's
countless other
grief.
tales
That's
from the Age of
hard.
Heroes, too many to count. These histories weren't
Darren
recorded in a
God's
book,
grief.
but passed down from generation to generation through story and song. And while some of them may be dismissed as fairy tales, every one of the 7 kingdoms is defined by them.
That's hard, because that's actually how it is in real life.
East of Westeros lies the smoking sea, where no ship dares sail. There are those who swear it to be demon-haunted, and who's to say they're wrong? For it was there,
Valyria,
thousands of years ago, that a cataclysmic event occurred,
Guyscar.
destroying one of the great civilizations of history.
Oh,
The
Chris.
precise details of their origins are lost to us. But it is said the Valyrians were once a modest community of shepherds, tending their flocks on a small peninsula of the great eastern continent. One fateful day, in a volcanic area known as the 14 Fires,
This
they
is
made
where
a shattering
Valyrian steel comes
discovery.
from.
Dragons. They were monstrous, scaled creatures with massive wings, sharp claws, and fiery breath. They were also said to have a deep-rooted connection to magic. In time, the Valyrians were able to tame the beasts. Harnessing their immense power, they established a city of wonder, unlike any before or since. They became skilled at sorcery and metallurgy, creating uncommon weapons of spell-forged steel. Wielding these weapons astride
So
their
that's how
dragons, the Valyrians
the
conquered the
Damascus.
surrounding lands
Okay.
and slowly expanded west. At the time, the Giscari Empire dominated much of the great eastern continent and tried to stop Valyria's expansion. The Giscari legions attacked the Valyrians 5 times, but could never defeat them. Finally, the Valyrians marched on their capital, Old Gis, and obliterated it, turning its
Gis.
streets and buildings to ash with dragon flame, and wiping the Giscari people and their culture off the face of the earth.
I don't know what
The freehold of
the
Valyria,
connection
as
to
it
this
came to
story
be
is.
known, became the most advanced civilization in the known world, with its own language, gods, and culture. The Valyrians' reach extended far and wide, covering most of the
Islam,
continent.
maybe? Like
Great
the
cities were built and roadways paved, all of which led back to Valyria. The freehold would prosper for nearly 5,000 years.
Persia
But it was
also.
not to last. An event that became known only as the Doom laid waste to the Valyrians, their capital city, and its surrounding lands. The peninsula itself was shattered, becoming what is now the Smoking Sea. Every dragon was thought to be lost, as were the Valyrian spells, knowledge, and recorded history. Thus, the mighty empire collapsed. What caused this cataclysm? No one knows for certain. Some say it was a volcanic eruption. Others say the Valyrians' own sorcery got the better of them. In any event, the Doom's
I just realized this
devastation
is
of the
Jamie
Valyrian
talking.
people was total, with the exception of a small rocky island in the narrow sea, Dragonstone. For it was there that the Targaryens, the last of old Valyria,
I don't think we've seen
dwelled.
Dragonstone yet.
They would lie in wait for another 100 years
Valyria,
before
for that
unleashing
matter.
the fury of the dragon on another continent, Westeros.
Night gathers, and now my watch begins. It shall not end until my death. I shall take no wife, hold no lands, father no children. I shall wear no crowns and win no glory. I shall live and die in my post. I am the sword in the darkness. I am the watcher on the walls. I am the shield that guards the realms of men. I pledge my life and honor
I ain't gonna lie,
to
this is
the
a
Night's
hard ass
Watch
pledge.
for
When I
this
first heard
night
it,
and all the nights to
on nights
come.
that come. Yeah.
Legend
First time I
tells
heard
of a
that shit on
winter
the show.
that
I was
lasted
like,
a
"Dang."
generation, and of a vast and terrible darkness that fell across the land. It came to be known as the Long Night.
Oh, we gonna
In the midst
we gonna
of
learn
this
about
darkness,
the history of the White Walkers?
the White Walkers emerged from the far north.
Hell yeah.
With their armies of the dead, they waged war against the living, laying waste to villages and holdfasts, leaving terror and destruction in their wake.
So how did they
After years
how'd they beat the
of
zombies
brutal
last time?
conflict and unbearable loss, an alliance of the first men and the children of the forest managed to drive the walkers and their minions back into the frigid northern wastelands from whence they came.
Oh,
To prevent
straight
another
war.
invasion,
Oh, okay.
the first men erected
enough.
the wall, a massive fortification 700 feet in height, stretching from the Frostfang Mountains in the
Okay.
west to the Bay of Seals in the east. It was a structure unlike any ever built.
So
Indeed,
is
some
the
maintain it
children
only been completed with the aid
of
of
the
giants,
forest
or
still
using the
a
powerful
thing?
magic of the ancient children of the forest. Men were required to guard and maintain it, and thus the Night's Watch was born. A sworn
Oh, so
brotherhood
this is the origin
tasked
story of
with defending the realms
the
of
wall.
men
Okay.
against the dark forces that lay beyond. Upon taking his vows, a brother of the Night's Watch serves for life. It is a life of hardship and great sacrifice, so the oath must not be taken lightly. The punishment for desertion is death.
Fucking
The Night's Watch is
Oh,
divided
John
into three
keeps testing that
vital
fucking
branches: the Rangers, the Builders, and the Stewards. While all Black Brothers are expected to take up steel should the need arise, the Rangers are the true warriors of the Watch. Centuries
See, they briefly went over that in the show, but I actually like how they're like leaning more into that. That concept of micromanagement within your subsects of the group is really smart. It makes it super realistic too, because you would have in any castle or any fort, you'd have the warriors, the working class, which are the builders, the blacksmiths, right, to maintain your masons to maintain the actual infrastructure of the fort and armory, and then your maesters, which is the or not he what do you call them septons. That's sort of like the church. Because the thing is, too, is most people don't really realize the influence that a bishop had on a king. Like the actual, the church itself's influence on these different kingdoms and financial backing of that. The, how do I say this the right way? Okay, so there is a reason why your bishop is directly next to your king in chess. Is because you have your king, your queen, the church, then the knighthood, and then the actual infrastructure, which is your bishops or your rooks.
And gone, and although the White Walkers have yet to return, another threat has emerged. Barbarian tribes known as wildlings. The Rangers are charged with defending the realm against these lawless savages. The builders are carpenters, masons, miners, and woodsmen, tasked with maintaining the wall, as well as its various keeps, towers, and structures, which have fallen into disrepair over the years. The stewards serve as cooks, butchers, and hunters. They tend to the horses and messenger ravens.
Oh, okay.
Sew clothing, gather firewood, and bring supplies up from the south. The Night's Watch is a diverse group. Proud volunteers from noble houses stand side by side with petty thieves conscripted from dungeons. Class distinctions are left behind, as are past misdeeds. A man gets what he earns on the wall. And even the lowliest gutter snipe can rise up in rank if he proves himself worthy. For thousands of years, the brothers of the Night's Watch have stood their lonely vigil. As the seasons changed, as brutal wars raged in the south, as dynasties rose and fell, the Night's Watch endured. We are the swords in the darkness. We are the watchers on the wall. We are the shields that guard the realms of men.
Joining the Night's Watch, or taking the Black, is a singular honour for any northerner. For it was in the north, some 8,000 years ago, that the first man drove back the White Walkers, erected the wall, and established the sworn brotherhood that would guard the realm and its people from the dangers beyond.
So these fools are just beasts.
Regrettably, the Night's Watch no longer commands the widespread respect and admiration it once did. While House Stark and other houses in the northern regions continue to recognize its vital importance to the safety and stability of the realm, this view is not shared by the powerful houses of the southern kingdoms. I
really like how they're doing. They're like telling this like an actual. Like, I feel like I'm watching a History Channel style documentary. Like an actual like this was real history. I really like that. And honestly, even the sketch prefab style of the artwork, I also really like.
Most regard the Watch as a misguided, obsolete order made up of useless outcasts.
To watch this.
Admittedly, the current Night's Watch is a shadow of its former glory. Their numbers have dwindled to less than 1,000. Of the 19 castles along the wall, only 3 are functional. The Shadow Tower, Castle Black, and East Watch by the Sea. And the Watch's mandate of adding to the wall has been abandoned entirely. There are barely enough resources to maintain it. Recruiting officers, known as Wandering Crow.
Is that the reason That detail makes me feel. I know this isn't like a direct. I mean, I know it's canon or whatever, but it makes me think that the Night's Watch isn't ready by any means to handle this White Walker situation.
Scour the dungeons and slums of the realm in hope of finding men to fill the ranks. While there is still the occasional highborn volunteer, the newest recruits are almost entirely made up of lowly criminals. Thieves, rapists and murderers, sentenced to the wall as punishment for their crimes. The decline of this once fabled order is troubling, as the danger it guards against is all too real. While the White Walkers haven't been seen or heard from in ages, and may very well be the stuff of myth, barbarian tribes that dwell beyond the wall, known as wildlings, have been a menace to the North and its people for generations. At certain points in history, the disparate wildling tribes have united behind a single leader, a king beyond the wall.
Okay, so they're clearly the Scots. There's no question. That's exactly how the British looked at this, and the Romans looked at the Scots.
But thanks to the resourceful and courageous men of the Night's Watch, these so-called kings were soundly defeated.
Actually, I mean, it's no wall like this. This is a I don't know what it said, 4,000 feet or some crazy shit tall, but they built like a little wall all the way across England, separating Scotland and England. That's like that. Actually, that's real. You can look it up. It's not very tall. I haven't seen it in person, but I've seen like videos and documentaries of it. And it's been a while, but I'm pretty sure it's only like this tall. It's like 3 foot, 4 foot tall or something. It might be higher peaks and stuff
While
like
many
that.
have lost faith in the Night's Watch, the people of the
wall.
North are steadfast in their belief that the Black Brothers will answer the call of duty. But with winter coming, diminished numbers, and a lack of widespread support, will they be ready?
Long ago in the wintry north, an army of demons emerged from beneath the icy ground
So this is just all
and
about the
spread
Night's
darkness and despair across the land. Astride their monstrous spiders, flanked by giants,
Hey,
they
it's
wreaked
Tyler.
havoc on the innocent, slaughtering thousands. All hope was lost until the fearless warriors of the first Night's Watch drove them back into the wintry mountains and built a magic wall to keep them from ever invading again. These stalwart brothers in black continue to...
See, what's really cool about this, right? Because they do some repeating, but this is actually how like real history, not just a documentary, but I'm saying like actual history was written. You would have the tellings of one historian in one region, in a direct and then you would have another historian in a different region telling the same story, having the same beginning, middle, and end, but different details in between.
These stalwart brothers in black
Similar to like the
continue
Gospels.
to protect us, even to this day, from the evils that lurk in the shadows. An absurd lie. A fairy tale spun by many a wet nurse in the north.
See, and depending on who it's told by, there's different biases. Like, Tywin clearly thinks there's no chance that
To be sure, a giant wall does exist. The triumph of engineering, perhaps, but not of magic. As for the Night's Watch,
magic at all.
There may have been a time centuries ago when there was prestige and honor in the miserable monastic life of a Black Brother. But now, the wall has become a glorified penal colony, full of outcasts, criminals, and assorted ne'er-do-wells. Today, a typical man of the Night's Watch most likely started out a lowly beggar, or a rapist, or a village idiot. As for the few high-born watchmen, They either fought on the losing side of a war, or were disowned by their parents for one reason or another. Those who persist in defending the Night's Watch will claim the Seven Kingdoms need protection from the wildling tribes of the far north. But there's little to fear from those primitives. They're a nuisance, but not sophisticated or powerful enough to be a significant threat to the realm. And any talk of White Walkers returning with their armies of the dead and their giant spiders and their snarks is just that. Talk.
In the Seven Kingdoms of Westeros, the dominant religion is the faith of the Seven, first brought to its shores by the Andals some 6,000 years ago.
His historical
But there are some who still keep to
inspiration
the
was
old way,
for that.
worshipping
The only
the
thing I can think
faceless
of was like
god, the
Australia,
children
but
of the forest,
I definitely don't
and the
think that's
first men. The old gods are countless, nameless spirits of nature. In ancient times, the children of the forest carved
Maybe
faces in the
gladiators?
trunks of the weirwood trees, which became sacred symbols of their faith. In time, the first men adopted the children's gods as their own. Most castles at that time contained a godswood with a weirwood or heart tree at its centre.
Meanwhile,
I like
across
this. They
the narrow
just threw
sea,
this in so you can see
a new religion was
that
born in
there's
the
different
hills of
perspectives.
Andalus.
The old guys
According
and
to
the-
legend, the god
Bran
of
and
Seven
who else?
revealed itself to the
Oh.
Andals,
Yeah,
and the
mom.
invasion of Westeros followed soon after. The Andals sailed across the sea on ships armed with weapons of steel. Some warriors carved a seven-pointed star into their skin as a symbol of their new faith.
The invaders destroyed most of the weirwoods in the southern lands, slaughtered the children of the forest wherever they could find them, and conquered every kingdom of the first
Yeah.
men, save the
This is
north.
classic paganism.
In time, the faith of the Seven spread like wildfire throughout the land.
Okay, what I think that was is the like the angles instead of handles. The angle. These fucking fruit flies, bruh. I got a fucking infestation. These motherfuckers. I can't kill them all. Yeah, so like the Anglo-Saxons. Now the Angles and the Saxons are different groups, but relatively similar, and they ended up becoming what we now call the Anglo-Saxons.
The Seven is a single deity with
English
seven aspects, each symbolizing a different area of life, though most people refer to the Seven as separate gods.
The mother is prayed to for mercy
So that's
and
like
watches over
Catholicism.
fertility, childbirth, and peace. The father sits in judgment over souls. The warrior is prayed to for protection, valor, and skill in battle. The crone is the symbol of wisdom and foresight. The smith watches over creation and craftsmanship. The maiden symbolizes purity, love, and beauty. Finally, there is the stranger, rarely prayed to, who represents death. The faith is highly organized and deeply influential in Westerosi politics and culture as the official religion of the monarchy. Worshippers gather in temples of the faith called septs. The seat of the faith is the Great Sept of Baelor, which is located
think it
in
is
the
a
capital
combination
city
of
of
both.
King's Landing.
Still, in the north, where descendants of the first men dwell,
Death?
worship of the old gods continues to this day.
I think it is
And
like
the
a
sacred
combination
faces
of
of the weirwood trees keep
like
close watch
Odinism
over the
and
faithful.
Christianity, specifically Catholicism.
The ascension of Aegon Targaryen was confirmed, and the fate of the Seven Kingdoms sealed on the Field of Fire. Kings Loren Lannister of the Rock and Mern Gardner of the Reach stood against Aegon's invasion. They commanded a united force of 600 banners, 5,000 mounted knights, and 50,000 men-at-arms. Aegon's host was vastly outnumbered, and when the army of the two kings charged, the invaders turned heel and ran. But Andalmite was no match for Dragonflame. When Aegon unleashed all 3 of his dragons, 4,000 souls were horrendously burned alive on the battlefield, King Mern among them. Realizing all hope was lost, King Loren surrendered. The Starks of Winterfell had no intention of submitting to Targaryen rule. They had reigned as kings in the north since the days of the First Men and were determined to resist the Targaryen invaders, just as they had resisted the Andals thousands of years before. King Torrhen Stark led his army to the Red Fork just east of Riverrun, hoping to succeed where Loren and Mern had failed. But when Torrhen saw the size of Aegon's now mighty host, along with his monstrous dragons, he knew he couldn't subject his followers to the horror of another field of fire. He bent the knee and swore fealty to Aegon, who allowed the Starks to maintain their lordship over the region as Lords Paramount and Wardens of the North. Without question, Torrhen Stark saved thousands of lives that day. He was ever after known as the king who knelt.
The days of the Andals were numbered. One by one, their so-called kings were bending the knee or facing the wrath of Aegon Targaryen. Aegon of Old Valyria. Aegon who was blood of the dragon. After defeating the Iron Men at Harrenhal and slaying the last of the Storm Kings, Aegon and his sisters, Rhaenys and Visenya, set their sights on other prizes. The gold mines of the Rock and the fertile lands of the Reach. King Loren Lannister of the Rock and King Mern Gardener of the Reach foolishly thought their combined armies could beat back the Targaryen host. They rode forth together, their proud banners flapping in the wind, and faced off against Aegon in a vast golden field of wheat. The two kings commanded a massive force of nearly 60,000, and it appeared the day was theirs, until Aegon unleashed all 3 of his dragons for the first and only time. Each beast was named after the Valyrian gods of Aegon's forefathers. Visenya rode Vhagar, whose fiery breath could melt armor. Rhaenys rode Meraxes, whose jaws were big enough to swallow a horse whole. Greatest of all was Balerion the Black Dread, with fire dark as night and wings so huge whole towns were covered in shadow when he flew overhead.
So
This
I think
magnificent
he's
creature
William
was ridden by
McConaughey.
Aegon himself. 4,000 men were bathed in glorious dragon flame that day, on what came to be known as the Field of Fire. King Mern was among the dead, and House Gardener died with him. His stewards, the Tyrells, surrendered his ancestral stronghold of Highgarden to Aegon, and were appointed Lords Paramount of the Reach and Wardens of the
I didn't
South.
realize too, he had 3 dragons.
When Loren Lannister witnessed Mern's fate, he wisely bent the knee. Aegon spared Loren's life, and the Lannisters were made Lords Paramount of the Westerlands and Wardens of the West. After his
I just realized he has 3 dragons, and so does Daenerys. And they're both coming from the east to attack Westeros. So she might actually fuck around and have a chance.
triumph on the Field of Fire, Aegon's conquest was assured. In a short time, the so-called 7 kingdoms were melted down in the heat of the dragon's flame and transformed into a single realm. Aegon would forever be known as Aegon the Conqueror.
Yeah, William the Conqueror, see? Yeah, okay. I might have been right with that.
In the far southwest of Westeros, at the mouth of the river Honeywine, lies the great stone city of Old Town. It is home to the Citadel.
Oh, actually, see, I'm stoned. Because I said that Robert and uh, and Ned were the William the Conqueror stories, but in reality, it's the Targaryens. That's the William the Conqueror story.
Upon completing his training at the Citadel and taking his vows, a maester
Really
renounces his
strong.
family name
I'm sorry.
and takes a vow of celibacy. He is assigned to a castle or keep, and duty-bound to serve as its counselor and healer, even if control of the castle changes hands. A maester's allegiance is to the realm, not to any one family. His badge of office is a great chain, forged from links of different metals which he wears around his neck. It is a reminder of his role as a servant of the realm and is never to be removed. A maester forges his chain with study, and each link represents the mastery of a different kind of learning. For instance, a silver link signifies mastery of the medicinal arts. A golden link represents the study of money and accounting. An iron link indicates knowledge of warcraft. Ravenry is an especially important skill for a maester.
Oh, that's hard.
As it is he who breeds, trains, and maintains carrier ravens for the delivering of messages throughout the land. There are some maesters who have earned a link forged of Valyrian steel. This signifies knowledge of the higher mysteries, commonly known as magic. Only one maester in 100 possesses such a link, as this field of study is frowned upon by many in the Order. It is possible magic may have existed for a time long ago, but most consider the higher mysteries to be long gone from this world. Service as a maester is a noble calling, one of vital importance to a prosperous realm. It is little wonder there are some who refer to the Order as the Knights of the Mind.
Huh.
As word of King Aerys' erratic and troubling behavior spread throughout the Seven Kingdoms, Lord Rickard Stark continued to serve his king faithfully as Warden of the North. The proud father of 4 children, his daughter Lyanna, was engaged to Robert Baratheon, the young lord of Storm's End.
Okay.
Centuries of peace between the North and the Iron Throne ended the day Rhaegar...
So Rickon was Ned's father, and obviously his youngest son's named after him. See, it's interesting to think about how his eldest son was named after Jon Arryn, and then Rob was named after Robert, and then Rickon was named his third. Oh wait, no. I don't know who Bran's named after.
Targaryen, Prince of Dragonstone,
But you see what I'm saying?
abducted Lyanna. Enraged, Brandon Stark rode to King's Landing, demanding the release of his sister and the death
there
of
you go.
Rhaegar.
So Bran's named after his
Aerys
brother.
arrested him for treason and called his father to come to the capital to ransom him. When Lord Rickard complied, Aerys, now utterly mad, arrested him for treason as well. Lord Rickard demanded a trial by combat. Aerys declared fire the champion of House Targaryen and had Lord Rickard suspended from the rafters of the throne room while pyromancers lit a blaze beneath him. As he burned, Brandon was brought into the throne room. A leather cord attached to a strangulation device was wrapped around his neck. Aerys told Brandon his father was...
What the fuck? So that's what happened. Oh, that's what they were talking about with Ned's father and brother.
A dead man, but there was a chance to save him. A longsword was placed on the floor just out of Brandon's reach, and the more he struggled to reach it, the more the cord tightened around his throat. Brandon Stark strangled himself, trying to free his father, who was roasted alive in his own honor.
What the fuck?
The entire court stood and watched this atrocity take place.
I thought they both
Sir
got
Jaime
burned.
Lannister and the King's Guard among them. The Mad King was reported to have laughed hysterically as these two noble men were tortured and brutally killed before him. Seeking to rid the world of all
That's
his supposed
crazy, bro.
enemies, Aerys called for the head of Rickard's younger son, Eddard Stark, and Lyanna's betrothed, Robert Baratheon. He sent word to Lord John Arryn, who had fostered both young men at the Eyrie, to apprehend them. Instead, Lord Arryn joined houses Stark and Baratheon in rebellion. Robert vowed to kill Rhaegar Targaryen and get his beloved Lyanna back.
Oh, okay, I understand. So that makes sense as far as how I was kind of wondering that how John Arryn became such a influential figure in Ned and Rob's, like how he became their mentor.
Aerys Targaryen was the last of his name to sit on the Iron
Look at his
Throne.
fingers, bro.
Known far and wide as the
Got them
Mad
senator's
King,
fingers.
his was a reign of instability and terror. The Seven Kingdoms are well rid of him and his kind. Oh, he may have appeared to be a capable ruler at first, but that was due in no small part to his counselors, led by the hand of the king, Tywin Lannister. There may have been years of peace and prosperity during Aerys's reign, but it was Tywin who was really running the country as Aerys spiraled further and further into insanity. The dragon spawn were
I didn't
famous.
know that either, that Tywin was his hand. That makes so much more
for
sense
losing
now.
their minds. It was
I
the
wonder
price
why
they
he's
paid
so,
for
like,
centuries of
militant and
keeping the
smart.
bloodlines pure.
But
And Aerys
How
more
he
than
acquired all
happily
the power.
continued the noble sister-fucking tradition of his forefathers. As the years passed, Aerys's behavior became increasingly erratic. He cut himself so often on his Iron Throne, many referred to him as King Scab, though never to his face. It was rumored he had developed an obsession with wildfire, and was known to inflict horrific punishments on those he considered enemies, including burning them alive. As his paranoia and bloodlust grew, he had a bitter falling out
I like
with
how they
Lord
brought
Tywin,
Robert
who had
back to tell
served the
the
crown
story.
faithfully for 20 years. At least Tywin was able to leave the job with his life and fortunes intact. Subsequent hands of King Aerys weren't so fortunate. Then the Targaryens went too far. The Crown Prince Rhaegar abducted Lyanna Stark, daughter of Rickard Stark, the Lord of Winterfell. She was my betrothed. She was my beloved.
oh, and that's why they tried
Beautiful
to kill
and spirited
Robert.
woman.
It was
And I loved
because
her more than life itself.
the
Rhaegar
son
went south with
stole
Lyanna,
her.
hiding her away in Dorne. What harm he inflicted on the poor girl, the gods only know. Brandon Stark, Lyanna's eldest brother,
See,
was
that's
outraged.
why I thought.
He rode to King's Landing to confront
Yeah, see,
the
this
king
is the story I
and
thought.
demand his sister's safe return. Instead, Aerys had him executed. His father, Rickard Stark, as well.
Oh.
There wasn't much left to discuss after that. Aerys feared their loved ones would seek revenge for what he did. He was right to be afraid. Aerys wasted no time in calling for the heads of Brandon's younger brother, my friend Eddard Stark. And my head too, of course. I'm sorry he didn't come looking for it himself. Alongside Jon Arryn of the Vale, the man who fostered Ned and I as children, Baratheons, Starks, and Tullys all called their banners. Once our rebellion began, the Mad King's days were numbered.
Okay, so this is from Tywin's.
As Aerys Targaryen's behavior grew more and more erratic, the task of ruling the Seven Kingdoms
This is
fell
hard
to
as
me,
shit, bro.
Tywin Lannister. I had served Aerys for nearly 20 years, and as a result, the realm had prospered. The royal coffers were full, the land was at peace. But Aerys grew increasingly hostile, jealous of the success many credited to me. My power and influence unnerved him. The captain of my personal guard, Sir Elin Payne, was once overheard making offhand comments regarding who was the true ruler of Westeros. When the king was given this information, he had Elin Payne's tongue ripped out with hot pincers. It was my desire to unite the houses of Lannister and Targaryen through marriage. My daughter Cersei would marry Aerys' eldest son, Prince Rhaegar. Such a union made perfect sense for all parties. However, Aerys' senses had begun to leave him quite some time earlier. Instead of uniting the royal family with its most loyal and powerful ally, Aerys chose instead to insult my family, indicating that such a match was beneath Rhaegar.
See,
Instead, he chose Elia Martell
that explains
of
why
Dorne
he
to
was
be
down to get
Rhaegar's
rid of
wife. As if to rub salt in my wounds, Aerys appointed Jaime, my son, to the King's Guard. The King's Guard may be an honor for lesser families than ours, but it is a lifetime appointment that forces him to renounce all family holdings. This creates a difficulty in naming an heir to Casterly Rock. But Aerys knew all that. I had grown tired of the king's constant provocation. Thus, I resigned my post as Aerys' hand and returned to Casterly Rock with my considerable forces. When Robert Baratheon rebelled against the throne, Aerys grew fearful that I would join with Robert's forces and rise against him. He thought himself clever and kept Jaime very close, as if warning me. He sunk deeper and deeper into delusion, paranoia, and violence. I've heard it said he became obsessed with wildfire, a substance which, once lit, cannot be extinguished. Convinced he had enemies all round him, he wouldn't allow blades in his presence, save for those of his king's guard. Alas, that proved to be his undoing.
House Targaryen by Viserys Targaryen.
The Targaryen dynasty united the seven kingdoms and lasted nearly 3 centuries. It was a dynasty forged in fire, sealed in blood, and destroyed by rebellion. The Targaryens are blood of the dragon, descended from the nobility of ancient Valyria, a once mighty empire in the east. When the cataclysmic doom laid waste to Valyria and its people, the Targaryens survived, having settled on the island fortress of Dragonstone years before. They remained there for a century, until the rise of Aegon the Conqueror. Instead of attempting to reclaim the eastern lands of his ancestors, Aegon sailed west for the Seven Kingdoms, his sisters Visenya and Rhaenys at his side. To keep the bloodlines pure, Aegon continued the custom of his Valyrian ancestors and took both of his sisters to wife. Together, they came ashore on the eastern coast of Westeros, their blazon a dragon with 3 heads, representing Aegon and his sister wives. Their words, fire and blood.
That was the name of the
While
last
their
episode.
host was small in comparison to the armies of Westeros that awaited them, Aegon and his sisters had a secret weapon, the last of the dragons.
You can look up different...
He conquered every kingdom save Dorne, which eventually bowed to Targaryen rule a century later.
I want to say it's like
He had the swords of his enemies melted down by the fiery breath of his dragon, Balerion the Black Dread, and forged into the Iron Throne.
Charles II.
The capital city of King's Landing was built on the eastern coast, where Aegon and his sisters first came ashore.
You don't become
and Aegon ordered the construction of a royal castle on its highest hill.
It's insane.
The Red Keep. For 300 years, the Targaryen dynasty stayed strong in the face of rebellion, civil war, and plague. But the line of dragon kings was broken when my father, Aerys Targaryen, the second of his name, was overthrown in rebellion. My father was betrayed and slaughtered by Sir Jaime Lannister, a member of his own Kingsguard. His son and heir, my brother Rhaegar, perished on the field of battle at the hands of Robert Baratheon, who claimed the Iron Throne for himself. And so today, the only surviving members of the storied Targaryen dynasty are myself, Prince Viserys, rightful King of the Andals and ruler of the Seven Kingdoms, and my sister, Daenerys. We were spirited away to the free cities of the East by loyalists. Here we have lived in exile ever since.
And the old
dreaming
guy
of a
of the
day when we
wall.
will cross the narrow
The
sea
maester.
and take back my father's throne.
Robert's Rebellion, Robert.
Rebellion. The crimes of House Targaryen were too heinous to go unanswered. The noble houses of Baratheon, Stark, and Arryn united to oppose and overthrow the line of the cursed Dragon Kings. While Ned Stark and Arryn secured an alliance with the Tullys of Riverrun, I called the banners of Storm's End and rode out in force against
so
the
they
Mad
had
King
the
and his
whole
minions. Gods,
And,
those were some
East.
battles. Our first victory occurred at Summerhall, where I faced off against an army of dragon loyalists and won 3 battles in a single day. 3 in one day. 7 hells, that was a glorious day. We tried to take Ashford Castle in the Reach, but the Tyrells beat us back. We had to regroup. My army was pursued north by Aerys's army and took refuge in the Stony Sept in the Riverlands. When the Targaryen army entered the town, the Sept bells tolled, a signal to the townspeople of the battle that was to come.
I like how
As the
they
Targaryens
start
searched from
telling
house to
the
house for
Robert's
me,
Rebellion
the combined
from Robert's
forces of
perspective.
Ned Stark and the Tullys swept
Like
into
straight
the city.
victory.
God,
Taking
what
that
a
shit.
day that was.
Yeah.
It's now known as the Battle of the Bells.
Battle of
We
the Bells.
overwhelmed the Mad King's forces and sent them scampering back to King's Landing. Aerys's son, Rhaegar, who started the whole damn thing, finally emerged from hiding in the south and assembled his own army to face us. As for the Mad
So
King,
is he the one that
he must have been pissing himself.
is he the one that
The battle that would decide the fate of the
Stole
Seven Kingdoms
Ned's
occurred
sister?
at the crossing of the Green
I said
Fork of the
stole.
Trident
Kidnapped
River.
Ned's sister?
Rhaegar commanded the royal host, which was some 40,000 strong. My forces were outnumbered by nearly 5,000 men, but that didn't matter. They were fresh, but we were battle-hardened and had justice on our side. As the battle raged around us, I faced off with Rhaegar, the stag and the dragon right there in the ford of the river. I fought with the fury of 10 men, raining blow after blow upon that vile prince before burying my warhammer in his chest. I hit him so hard the rubies on his armor broke free, flinging them into the stream. They call it the Ruby Ford now. With that scum Rhaegar dead and the royal army shattered, our next move was to make for King's Landing. But I'd sustained a few wounds in the battle and was unable to ride. I sent Ned Stark to the capital to face the Mad King and make him pay for his crimes.
Yeah, that's hard, bro.
The Targaryens, blood of the dragon, and the last of old Valyria, were loved by their subjects and admired far and wide as the greatest dynasty in the history of the Western world. But the peace and prosperity of nearly 3 centuries of Targaryen rule was shattered by the usurper,
It's full straight
Robert
Nepo,
Baratheon,
baby.
and his band of traitors. House Baratheon owed its very existence to the Targaryens. Was it not Aegon the Dragon himself who elevated the bastard Orys Baratheon in the War of Conquest? And what of the Starks, the Lannisters, the Aarons of the Vale? All had been spared and allowed to keep their lands when Aegon could easily have wiped them out. Centuries later, the usurper and his lackeys repaid Aegon's benevolence with treachery. There are some who dare to claim Robert and his allies had reason to rebel. They say the crown prince stole the usurper's lady love. They say my father, King Ares, murdered Rickard Stark and his son without just cause. Whether these charges are true or not, it doesn't matter. The dragon answers to no one. Ares' good name has been besmirched in the years since the rebellion. He's been called a dangerous madman, a monster, a tyrant that brought his tragic end upon himself. Lies! My father was a victim of weaklings in his council. Lackwits who failed him in his hour of need and let the rebellion spin out of control. But it was not enough. The royal army
He's definitely a
was crushed
combination
in the
of
Battle
both,
of the
because if he
Trident.
was fucking batshit crazy,
It was there the valiant
and
Rhaegar
not all
met
there,
Robert in single combat, but the gods betrayed him,
good counsel
and he
would be the only
perished
thing
by
I
the
could say.
usurper's hand. As the field of fire had marked the end of the Andal centuries before, the Battle of the Trident seemed to herald the end of the Dragon Kings. When word reached the capital of my brother Rhaegar's death, my father Ares moved to protect me, as I was the surviving heir to the throne. He sent me to the island fortress of Dragonstone, along with my mother, Queen Rhaela, who was great with child. But as my father, my king, Ares
Oh,
Targaryen,
so Daenerys
prepared to
wasn't. I
defend
was
his
wondering why
throne to the
Daenerys
bitter
isn't telling
end,
the story. It's because she
little
wasn't
did he
even
know of
born
the
yet.
horrors and betrayals that awaited him and our family.
So what happened to the mom?
Ours is the fury. These are the words of the Black Stag of Baratheon. A battle cry echoed throughout the land in rebellion when I, Robert Baratheon, the first of his name, seized the Iron Throne from the Mad King Aerys Targaryen, ending a dynasty nearly 300 years old. House Baratheon was born in the Wars of Conquest, when Aegon the Dragon invaded Westeros. Aegon sent his commander, Orys Baratheon, to take Storm's End. Argilac the Arrogant, the last of the Storm Kings, foolishly left the safety of his stronghold and met the Baratheon warlord in open battle. Argilac was soundly defeated, and Orys took his lands, his holdings,
See,
and his daughter.
this is literally exactly what I was talking about at the beginning when I was saying how my family came from with William the Conqueror. This is actually exactly what I'm talking about when I was saying how William the Conqueror came over and then gave chunks of land to his like most badass warriors. That's exactly what this is. He told the Baratheon warlord to go take this land for himself. In that way,
Orys was said to be a half-brother to Aegon Targaryen.
The king wouldn't own the
If
land.
this were true, a little blood of the dragon mingled with that of the stag in those days.
He'd be able to.
The seat of House Baratheon is Storm's End, a legendary keep raised in the Age of Heroes. It overlooks Shipbreaker's Bay, where legend has it that Durin, the first Storm King, raised the keep with the aid of Bran the Builder of House Stark, forging a centuries-long connection with the Stormlands and the North. After Aegon's conquest of the Seven Kingdoms, the Baratheons remained loyal enough to the crown, while Targaryen kings came and went. But loyalty has its limits. When Rhaegar Targaryen, Aerys' vile son and heir, abducted Lyanna Stark, my betrothed, my beloved, it was time to act. We raised our banners, Baratheon, Stark, Jon Arryn, and the Tullys, united in rebellion against Rhaegar and his father, the Mad King. We were victorious and took the Iron Throne. That bit of dragon blood in my veins came in well, as it made me a distant relation to the Targaryen dynasty blood of my long-lost ancestor, Orys. The truth of it is, I took it. I sit on the Iron Throne. I rule the Seven Kingdoms from the Red Keep.
Oh, okay.
Robert
But he
Baratheon's
lays
victory at the
claim.
Trident was
Okay,
a
I
turning
understand.
point in the war for the Iron Throne. While it was clear the gods were
Makes sense,
smiling
though.
on the rebel
That he would
forces,
use
Aerys
a
Targaryen still held the Red Keep
tie to
at
them.
King's Landing.
Just like William the Conqueror.
As Robert was wounded and unable to ride, it was up to Eddard Stark to make for the capital and force the Mad King to give up the throne. Lord Stark reached the city gates to find that Tywin Lannister, Lord of Casterly Rock, had already sacked the city in Robert's name. House Lannister had remained neutral up to this point, ignoring requests for help from both the Crown and the rebels. Now that Robert's eventual victory was assured, it seemed Lord Tywin had finally chosen a side. Lord Eddard was horrified by what he saw when he entered the city. Homes looted and burned, women raped, scores of innocent citizens killed. Disgusted, he led his force up Visenya's hill to the Red Keep. Upon entering the throne room, he found King Aerys
And this
lying
gets
in a
him
pool
what he
of blood,
wanted to
dead
begin with.
by the
That's
hand
why
of his own sworn
his
King's
daughter
Guard,
married
Jaime
Robb.
Lannister, who sat brazenly upon the throne. Demanding to know the whereabouts
Cersei.
of Queen Rhaela, Lord Eddard was informed the Queen and her son Viserys had been spirited away to Dragonstone before the Lannisters arrived. But other members of the royal family were not as fortunate. Elia, Martell of Dorne, who was the wife of Prince Rhaegar, had been raped and murdered by Sir Grigor Clegane on Lord Tywin's orders. Sir Grigor and his man had also butchered Rhaegar's young children. When Robert was well enough to reach the capital, Lord Eddard demanded the Lannisters answer for their heinous crimes. Robert refused, and sent him south to relieve the Baratheon stronghold of Storm's End, which was
Is that the
still under
mountain?
siege by forces loyal to the crown. Whatever words passed between the two old friends are known only to them. But Lord Eddard is said to have left King's Landing in anger. Later, when Robert was crowned, he appointed Jon Arryn as Hand of the King. Lord Arryn's first order of business was to broker a truce with the Martells of Dorne, who were outraged by the brutal murder of Princess Elia and her children. Following the death of Lyanna Stark, who had been betrothed to Robert, Houses Baratheon and Lannister were joined in marriage when the new king took Tywin Lannister's eldest daughter Cersei as his queen. As for Eddard Stark, he returned to his stronghold of Winterfell, forever haunted by his sister's death and the shameful way that Robert had secured his throne.
Yeah, all that makes sense.
For our rebellion to succeed, King's Landing had to be taken forcefully. No one was foolish enough to believe that Aerys was going to hand his crown over peacefully. The Mad King's reign needed to end. What Tywin Lannister's forces did was unfortunate, but it was necessary to secure the Iron Throne and bring peace and justice to the Seven Kingdoms. My glorious victory at the Trident left me wounded, but I sent my personal maester to attend to Sir Barristan Selmy instead. His wounds were more severe. Even though Sir Barristan was a member of Aerys's Kingsguard and fought on the opposing side, that man's bravery and loyalty was something to behold. But this meant my wounds would take longer to heal, and I couldn't ride to King's Landing myself. I sent the one man I trusted over anyone else in this world, Ned Stark, in my place. Had I been able to ride, perhaps I could have reached King's Landing sooner and prevented some of the violence that occurred when the Lannisters entered the city. Still, what Lord Tywin did was for the greater good. Even what happened to Princess Elia and her children. Babies or no, theirs was the same cursed blood that flowed within the Mad King's veins. They were dragon spawn and couldn't be allowed to survive. What would they grow to be? Loyal subjects? Ned with his damn northern honor. He and I had our first major fight over the deaths of the Targaryen children.
Oh, I understand it.
Ned called it murder. Murder? It was war. It was war. Lord Stark demanded that the Lannisters be held responsible for their crimes. Was it a crime to put an end to a family of lunatics born of incest? I wouldn't and still won't blame Tywin. Instead, I sent Ned Stark south to finish off the remaining Targaryen loyalists. It was only Lyanna Stark's death that reconciled us. Ned had lost his sister. I had lost my betrothed and beloved.
Well, it wasn't incest.
We shared that sad bond together, Ned and I.
The Martells.
Through it, our friendship was made strong again. As for the Mad King's surviving heirs, those that were able to scurry away in the face of my fury now live somewhere across the narrow sea. They had best stay there. If they ever set foot in Westeros again, they will face the King's justice.
Rhaegar Targaryen lay dead on the banks of the Trident, his royal army shattered and in retreat. The days of the Dragon Kings were clearly numbered. Until that moment, it would have been foolish to commit Casterly Rock to either the Crown or the Rebellion. What would our family have to gain in supporting a raving madman? Or in entering a crusade to put Robert Baratheon on the Iron Throne? But chaos benefits no one. It was time for House Lannister to do what it could to ensure a return of peace and prosperity to the land. I, Tywin Lannister, brought 10,000 Lannister troops to the gates of King's Landing in order to bring the bloodshed to a quick and decisive conclusion. King Aerys had been sending ravens.
Damn. But I really like how tactical his perspective is. There's no emotion involved. He just wants the best for the realm, even if that means temporary chaos or temporary brutality.
For months, begging for my support to end the uprising. In a way, his pleas had been answered. As I had suspected, Aerys opened the city gates and welcomed my men. Our plan was clear: crush Aerys' remaining bannermen and remove the remnants of the royal family as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Shit, I didn't even know it went down like
Any
that.
alternative meant years of further war and a fragmented Seven Kingdoms. Our means were bloody, but the results speak for themselves. As for Aerys, it is true he met his fate at the hands of my son. Aerys had kept Jaime close during the rebellion, thinking himself clever in keeping my son as a hostage, should I decide to pledge support to the rebel cause. This proved to be his greatest mistake. For when the time came, Jaime did his duty as a Lannister and drove his sword into the Mad King's back. With that, Robert Baratheon's crown was secured. The new king recognized our role in his ascension to the throne, just as he recognized how useful the might and riches of Casterly Rock would be if he wanted to keep it. To that end, I offered my daughter Cersei as his queen. Had Aerys not spurned this same offer years earlier, perhaps things would have worked out differently.
Yeah.
With Robert and Cersei crowned as king and queen of the Seven Kingdoms,
Definitely.
it was a new day. The dragon was vanquished, and the Seven Kingdoms would thereafter belong to the stag and the lion.
Yeah.
The Battle of the Trident may have been an important victory for the usurper,
but it was the treachery and barbarism of Tywin Lannister that sealed the fate of the Targaryen dynasty. My father, King Aerys, had ever been a friend to the Lions of the Rock. Aerys graciously brought Tywin to court, making him the youngest hand of the king in history. He gave him power. He gave him respect. He made it possible for Tywin to restore House Lannister to glory. Aerys and Tywin governed side by side for 20 prosperous years. Still, when the usurper called his banners in rebellion, Tywin Lannister ignored his king's pleas for help and stayed holed up in his stronghold of Casterly Rock. In time, my brother, Prince Rhaegar, was dead. The realm was in turmoil, and the usurper's forces were said to be riding for King's Landing. What a glorious sight it must have been when a force of 10,000 Lannister men showed up at the gate of the capital with Lord Tywin at their head, pledging support to his beleaguered king. Aerys opened the gates for his old friend. Instead, Lannister and his men proceeded to plunder and destroy the city that he had called home for decades. As the capital was ravaged and its people terrorized, Jaime Lannister, son of Lord Tywin, proved every bit as treacherous. He killed my father, the king, at the foot of the Iron Throne. The Lannisters entered the Red Keep, and Tywin ordered the deaths of the rest of the royal family. It is said Princess Rhaenys was found cowering under her father's bed and put to the sword. She was only a child. As for Rhaegar's widow,
So this is the mountain, right?
she was forced to watch as Lannister thugs dashed her baby son's head against a wall before being raped and murdered herself. As I was the heir to my father's throne, I had been spirited away to Dragonstone with my mother, Queen Rhaela, who was with child. As a raging summer storm battered the island fortress and destroyed the Targaryen fleet as it lay at anchor, my sister, Daenerys, was born. My mother, the Queen, died giving birth.
I had a feeling they were
Now,
going to say
some
that.
17 years later, the rightful king still
Got his
lives
dumbass.
in
Finally
exile.
got him.
But a day of reckoning is coming. I will sail west as Aegon the Dragon did centuries before. I will take back my father's throne with blood and fire. And I will punish the treacherous dogs who sought to destroy me.
That's what you think.
And the people shall rejoice.
You'll get a crown, bro. You'll definitely get a crown. House Aaron.
In the snow-capped mountains of the moon, standing high above the rich lands of the Vale, stands the Eyrie. A storied and impregnable fortress said to have been built by the legendary Mountain Kings in the Age of Heroes.
Crazy ass sister.
It is the stronghold of House Aaron, one of the oldest noble families in Westeros. Their sigil, a soaring falcon over a crescent moon.
Though.
Their words, as high as honor. The Aarons are direct descendants of the Andal invaders,
Oh no, she married
who sailed
John
across
Aaron.
the narrow sea and came ashore at the Fingers. According to legend, Sir Artus Aaron, known as the Winged Knight, soared through the sky atop a giant falcon, landing on the peak of the highest mountain where he defeated the Griffin King in battle. It was the Andal's first great victory over the First Men, and Sir Artus was duly rewarded. He was declared King of the Mountain and the Vale, and the region was renamed the Vale of Aaron.
Yeah, same shit.
Thousands of years later, Aegon the Conqueror arrived in
Oh, this is
Westeros.
pre-Baratheon.
House Aaron bent the knee to Aegon and his dragons, and were allowed to maintain the control of the region as lords paramount of the Vale and wardens of the East. Over the centuries, House Aaron remained loyal to the Targaryen dynasty until Lord Jon Arryn joined with houses Baratheon and Stark in rebellion against Mad King Aerys.
That's a hard-ass little...
Upon winning the Iron Throne, Robert named Lord Jon Hand of the King,
Sick.
a position he
Animation.
held until his mysterious death.
On the far western coast of the continent, high atop a rocky promontory overlooking the Sunset Sea, sits Casterly Rock, ancestral seat of House Lannister. Below it lies Lannisport, one of the great cities of Westeros, a center for trade, culture, and the great Lannister fleet.
Okay, that's how they got all their money.
There are a number of gold and silver mines in the Westerlands, making it the richest region in all of Westeros. One of the most productive mines lies beneath Casterly Rock itself, making House Lannister the wealthiest of all the noble houses. This allows House Lannister to finance many endeavors of other noble houses. Even the king himself has sought credit from Casterly Rock from time to time. We Lannisters claim our descent from the Andal invaders, and through the female bloodline, Lann the Clever. According to the legend, Lann, using only his wits, won Casterly Rock from the noble House of Casterly during the Age of Heroes. The Lannisters reigned as kings of the Rock for thousands of years, and worked to make it the envy of the rest of the Seven Kingdoms. Our time as kings ended, however, when Aegon Targaryen, otherwise known as Aegon the Conqueror, arrived in Westeros with his army. The last king of the Rock, King Loren Lannister, joined forces with King Mern Gardener, the king of the Reach. Together, with 60,000 men, they met the Targaryen host in open battle. History tells us that Aegon unleashed all 3 of his dragons, slaughtering 4,000 men at what came to be known as the Field of Fire.
Field of Fire.
King Mern himself was burned alive that day, and House Gardener turned to ash with him. Seeing both the threat and opportunity the Targaryens represented, Loren wisely surrendered and aided Aegon in his further conquest of Westeros. The Lannisters were thus appointed Lords Paramount of the Westerlands and Wardens of the West, titles we hold to this day. Let us be clear, though. It is neither luck nor royal favor that makes our house prosperous. There have been times in our history where some have thought us weak, lazy, or opulent. My father, Titus Lannister, nearly bankrupted our house with his poor investments, and allowed himself to be mocked openly at court. When our vassal, the Rains of Castamere, dared to rise up against the Lannisters, they learned how dangerous it can be to taunt a lion. I, Tywin Lannister, led the assault on Castamere to put down this rebellion. I made an example of them, to anyone who doubts our might. They even made a quaint song about the fates of the Rains of Castamere. Sadly, there are no Rains left to hear it. Today, the Golden Lion of Lannister is rightly admired and feared throughout the Seven Kingdoms.
I really like
words
Tywin.
are, hear me roar.
Oh, hell yeah.
But there are other words that should be remembered when crossing a Lion of Casterly Rock. A Lannister always pays his debts.
Okay. I was wondering, because there was a lot of repeating in that one.
The
I
Starks
felt
of
a little
Winterfell trace their
unnecessary, to be
descent to
honest.
the first men in the Age of Heroes. The family's founder was Brandon the Builder, who, in the aftermath of the Long Night, helped establish the Night's Watch. Legend has it he enlisted the aid of giants and the powerful magic of the Children of the Forest to raise the mighty wall, which has protected the realm for generations.
This is the second
He
time
went
they
on to build the
mentioned,
ancestral seat of Winterfell
Bran
and reigned as
Builder
the first king
so
in the
He
north.
might be who Bran was actually.
The Starks
Nah, it might
reigned
be
as
his
kings
brother. I
for
don't know.
thousands of years, even withstanding the invasion of the Andals. As the southern kingdoms fell and the Children of the Forest were driven away, the north stood
John.
strong, maintaining its religious customs and its way of life. Eventually, the reign of the Kings of Winter came to an end with the coming of
Where's Robb?
Aegon the Conqueror. After Aegon and his dragons destroyed the combined armies of the Reach and the Rock at the Field of Fire, King Torrhen Stark bent the knee and swore fealty to the Targaryen dynasty in order to spare the destruction of Winterfell and his people. He was forever after known as the King Who Knelt. As a reward for his submission, Aegon named Torrhen Lord of Winterfell and Warden of the North.
The Starks take great pride in their history and traditions. It is one of the few noble houses that still keeps the old gods. A sacred weirwood tree looms large in Winterfell's Godswood. Its ancestral sword, Ice, was forged in ancient Valyria and has been passed down through the generations. House Stark remains steadfast in its support of the Night's Watch, even as the once illustrious order has fallen on hard times. Much like their sigil, the Grey Direwolf, House Stark is the stuff of legend in the north and throughout the Seven Kingdoms. And their family words, "Winter is coming,"
serve as a reminder of their beginnings in the wake of the long night, and a grim portent of things to come.
Yeah, that was cool, you know. It was a little long and drawn out, but very informative. Like, I definitely learned a lot. It gave a lot more context to all the stuff we didn't know. I was a little worried I was going to get spoiled on stuff, and I don't think I have. The only characters I didn't know about prior to this were the Martells. That girl got brought up multiple times, and that shit is sad. What else? It was really good. I'm gonna check out. Oh, I never told you guys the top 5, did I? Okay, yeah, let's do that real quick. It was very documentary style. It was a good watch. Slow, and repetitive, but it was a good watch. And I do like how they did that, because it kind of like drills in, like they kept using the same images to tie back to specific events, so it was easily trackable, like where these stories intersect or how they're told by other people. But yeah, top 5. Number 1's very top of the list, Tyrion. Oh. I'm not gonna say a bunch. Tyrion's smart as shit. I like him a lot. Funny, charismatic, and a complex character. Arya, number 2. Badass little girl. Have high hopes for her. Bran, I don't know how his story is going to play. But I'm pretty sure I was spot on with Arya being a whole assassin. Jon, I like Jon a lot. Number 3. Again, very honorable. Reminds me of his father. Doesn't seem as... Actually, I was about to say he doesn't seem as stubborn and stupid, but that's actually not true either. But I do like Jon a lot. Under him's Robb. I feel like Robb's going to be a very influential player in this story, and I think he's going to be a great leader, at least from what I've seen so far. And then 5, Bronn. Arguably, behind Tyrion, the funniest character in the show, and same thing. He's a badass, charismatic, and like I just like his I don't know, do what you got to get money mentality or whatever. Top or bottom 5, like these 5, I don't like at all. We got Littlefinger is the worst character still alive. Don't like him at all. Treacherous. Kind of saw it all coming, but don't like him at all. Actually, let me scratch that. He's number 2. Number 1 is Joffrey. This fool is got to die. Like, I hate to say that about, it's crazy to say that about a kid, but yeah, he's no good, bruh. And then under Littlefinger is the Queen Cersei. Yeah, I feel like all this is just a byproduct of this bitch plotting. And then the two under them are actually dead currently. We have Viserys. I don't know if that's how you say it. Daenerys' brother. And the witch. Which also, I never trusted either one of these. I would say I'm a good judge of character, I feel like. Because I ain't trust none of these motherfuckers since day one. And then, actually, I didn't know how to feel about Joffrey, but he proved me wrong. Other than that, we're going to get into season 2 here soon. Make content a little bit longer. But yeah, I'll catch you on the next one.
They say it's more than life than this money, more than life than these riches. It's more than life than these cribs, cars and these clothes and all of these women. It's more than life than these